I need to make a video on gray area vices. Things such as going out to drink on the weekend, or playing video games is a really common one, or watching a lot of movies, or scrolling, or even masturbating for a lot of people, are gray area vices where it's like, well, the Bible doesn't say we shouldn't do it. Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? Is it a sin? Is it a sin if I smoke weed? And it is true that there are quote unquote gray areas, but really there aren't. So, first of all, we need to understand what is a sin. Why is it a sin? All sins have something in common, and that is number one, that they are in the short term, not the long term. So, they feel good in the moment, but they leave you worse off later on. A second thing is that they all play on your flesh, either through dopamine or through pride. And another thing, they open portals to spirits such as addiction, anger, anxiety, etc. So let's look at, for example, video games. Right? Video games, for me, 100% a sin. But what does that mean? Because it's not a sin in the conventional way, right? There are going to be people on this earth who will go through their whole lives playing video game an hour a day or whatever, never feel conviction and go to heaven. And for them, it isn't a sin, while for me, it is a sin. And then, okay, how does that make any sense? Here's what you need to understand. You can always be more spiritual. You can always be, quote unquote, more religious. And then if you follow that route, eventually you're going to become a monk, or you're going to become a street preacher, or whatever your ultimate calling would be if you were to truly follow your conscience more and more and more. Because who lives a more holy lifestyle? You're the monk. The monk, probably. Is he going to be saved more than you? No, he's not going to be saved more than you. We're not judged by our righteousness. What we are judged by is what we have been given. And this is a very important thing. We are held to different standards. And the standard you are held to is in direct correlation to the gifts you have been given. So if you, for example, haven't been given any special gifts, you're just a regular person and you just believe in Christ and you can enjoy your life, and that's cool. That might be cool for you. And you might play video games, you might never feel convicted. But there are people who feel convicted, and then religion will tell them, no, it's not a sin, it's fine, you don't have to kill yourself, you don't have to beat yourself up, it's okay to enjoy your life, like don't be so harsh on yourself. And this might very well be the case for most people, but the closer you want to get to truth and to God and to holiness, the more you will have to die and you will have to suffer. But here's the thing, here's one thing which people often don't understand. Let's take the example of playing video games. You think you're better off playing video games. You think you're going to enjoy it. But ultimately, true enjoyment is the closer you get to God. And so it is the same thing such as worship. God doesn't benefit from your worship. He might love the worship you give him, but the beneficiary of worship is you. You take the positive effects from worship. You take the positive effects from not sinning, and you take the negative consequences from sinning. If you're saved or if you're not saved, doesn't matter. If you sin, you will reap the consequences. And so even if you are saved, if you engage in an activity such as playing video games, which is short term, it puts you in a trance, it plays on your dopamine system, which is obviously your fleshly body, to flood your brain with feel-good chemistry. Yeah, you're not going to go to hell. Yeah, the Bible doesn't say it is a sin, but is it short term or is it long term? Is it adding to your life or taking away? Is it flesh or is it spirit? And this is where we have these gray areas. And this is where the question really comes down to who you are. You won't go to hell because you play video games, but it's not really conducive to your walk with God either. So what is it? Depends on you. If you've been given special gifts, the Spirit is going to be quote unquote harsher on you, and it's going to convict you in places where other people are not going to be convicted. This is why, for example, you'll see a lot of people, and you have to differentiate between a person who hasn't been given a lot of gifts and somebody who is just straight up a religious hypocrite. But there are a lot of people who, for example, they listen to Christian music and they slap on the title of Christian, but they're still listening to low frequency basses that put them in lower states and enchant them, while other people are like, no, I don't listen to music at all, or I truly only listen to music which definitely glorifies God. thing you gotta understand is that to the degree you follow this conviction, even if it is stronger than that in other people, to that degree you'll have a better life. To that degree you will walk into your purpose. Because let's say you've been given special gifts. Let's say you are supposed to be a fisher of men during those last days. God can have you be playing video games out here, or having 20 friends you go out at the weekends to have a drink with. Yeah, you're not going to be a drunkard. Gonna you're not going to fall into addiction. You're not going to get shit-faced drunk, but you all ingest a micro poison which is going to increase your flesh so you can have a good time and make funny jokes, etc. And then you'll also be more susceptible to other temptations, etc. It's not really conducive. So if you're truly a fisher of men, God won't have you doing these things. He'll take you out of the world. He'll take you away from these people. He'll cleanse you from all of the things, from the video games, from the gray area vices. Because could you imagine Christ walking around preaching the message of God, and then he goes home to play video games for 2 hours? No. Right. And so the question is not, is it a sin or isn't it a sin? The question is, do you have a special gift? Is the Spirit convicting you? Because Spirit beats religion. If the Spirit tells you one thing, but religious people take 1 or 2 verses and they tell you another thing, you should listen to your conviction, especially if you have an internal war, especially if it's something that actually you kind of want to do. It's kind of pleasurable. Why would I need to stop it? If it doesn't contradict Scripture, you should follow it. Because that means God is molding you into a person he can use. And who can he use better? A person who is doing a lot of gray area vices, or a person who doesn't? Because you can fill your whole day doing one gray area vice after another. In the morning you play video games, and then you watch a movie, and then you scroll for a little bit, just enjoying my life. In the evening you have one drink with your friends, you're not being drunk, you're not ruled by anything, and then the day passes, and then the weeks pass, and you're not achieving anything. You're being lazy, you're being slothful, which is a sin in of itself. And then it's like, okay, how do we define sloth? How do we define laziness? Imagine you have been given a limited time on this planet, and a mission and a goal and a purpose, and you sit there and play video games. Is that what you're supposed to be doing? Now, obviously, I'm being extremely harsh. But if we want to get to the bottom of things, we have to categorize things into either short-term or long-term, conducive to your goal or not conducive to your goal, flesh or spirit, right? And so don't listen to religion if you're convicted, because that means you have something greater to do, and other people won't understand. Other people won't understand why you're so, quote-unquote, over-righteous or so hyper-analytical of things. And they'll say, oh, relax, like you're doing too much. But it's like, no. If you have a goal here, you can't be out here playing video games for hours and hours a day. Sure, maybe once every while, but then even then, to the degree you play is to the degree it takes away. You're going to burn your dopamine, you're going to stimulate your flesh. Cool, you had a little enjoyment, you'll still be forgiven. Cool, maybe that's your quote-unquote vice. But to the degree you indulge in these vices is to the degree you take away from yourself. Because it's not, we don't not sin. That's partly the reason, but we don't not sin because it is good for God. No, we also do not sin because it is better for us. We don't worship God for God. We worship God partially for us. We benefit from worshiping God. And so the question is, well, to which degree do you want to live in truth? How close do you want to get? How many gifts have you been given? Because if you have been given a lot of gifts, the Spirit is going to convict you stronger. You're going to suffer more in the moment. You're going to have to let go of more things. You're going to be harsher on yourself than you are on others. But you'll get closer. You'll get to see the fruits firsthand and live that life and be used. Because you would live the best life following God's laws to its fullest and God's ways, right? Living as Christ would have lived. That's going to be living your best life either way. And to the degree you deviate from that is to the degree your life won't be as good. Is to the degree you won't be as close to God as you could be. Not because God isn't there, but because you choose to put your mind in a trance and focus on other things. If that's getting intoxicated or playing video games, even if it's not a sin, quote unquote. Because nowadays we're way too loose anyway, because we're so overstimulated and we have so much degeneracy and blasphemy. People don't even think anymore, right? They'll watch a movie and they will blatantly curse God or low-key manipulate you with agendas. People don't care. They'll just watch it anyway, or play video games for hours a day, but it's like, go back to biblical times and then stand there with your Monster Energy drink with 666 in Hebrew, and people are going to look at you a different way. And you sat next to Christ and you're drinking a 666 Monster Energy drink. Wouldn't that be weird? So the standards, they've fallen a lot because there's so much out there. It's become normalized, right? How many men do you see in churches talking about, oh, pornography, it's not a sin. As a man, you need to empty the pipes. It's a release. I'm not fornicating with a woman, so I'm keeping myself pure, and total degeneracy, a total wicked lie of the devil. Just because the Bible doesn't say you shouldn't masturbate. The Bible only says you shouldn't be ruled by anything. I can stop whenever I want to. It's things such as these. You need to be able to differentiate between somebody who is a religious hypocrite and somebody who just hasn't been given that many gifts. And most people haven't. God picks a few to do a lot of the work. That's why you have some pastors, some people, they blow up and they reach a lot of hearts and a lot of people, and they transform a lot of people. Or Christ, as that ultimate manifestation of that, lived one of the hardest lives, but he reached the most people. Because he had the most gift, he had the highest gift, requiring the highest sacrifice and putting the highest responsibility on his shoulders. And so it is that same thing for you. If God is calling you to do higher things, the Spirit will be, quote unquote, harsher. But it will only appear harsher because the more you follow it, the better it's going to get. So it's a blessing. But you need to start walking, even if it's difficult. And that's the whole thing about gray area vices. I don't care what it is. Whatever you sit there and then you start Googling or you start asking your friends or your pastor if it's good or bad, if it falls into the category of short term, just good in the now, for the flesh, dopamine, then it's not good for you. To the degree you do it is to the degree that your own life is going to suffer. You will suffer. God doesn't suffer if you sin. He might grieve if people don't follow him or spit in his face, but he's not harmed in a sense. The same way he doesn't become more loving or more full if you worship him. You are the one benefiting, and you are the one not benefiting if you don't follow. There's a reason it's called love or unity or harmony or fullness or truth. Because that's what you want. The closer you get there, the better it is. But the more you have to follow that which is required of you. The kingdom is within. The more you align with the truth, the more you'll taste it. At video games, even though you won't go to hell for it, even though you can do it without being ruled by it, it's not part of that core center. The question is, how close do you want to get to that core center? And then the other question is, how many gifts have you been given? Because if you've been given a lot of gifts, the Spirit is going to be louder. It's going to convict you when other people won't be convicted. Because you need to do more. But that's going to pay off later eventually as well. That's how these things work. So whenever you're confronted with one of these gray area vices, don't do it. That's why you're being confronted. That's why you're Googling. That's why you're questioning. That's why you're asking yourself. The fact that you question in of itself is a testimony to the fact that there's an inner conflict or an inner oppositional pull. And this is the conflict of spiritual war. Your flesh wants to do one thing, and your spirit says, hey, let's go higher. Let's be even better. You're not going to go to hell, but let's be even better. And then religion comes in and says, oh, it's okay, you can do it, You should be ruled by spirit, not by religion. So yeah, this is for all of your questions. If it's, just smoking once or drinking on the weekends, or it's up to you. What are your gifts and how serious are you about this? You're not going to lose your salvation, but your life's not going to be as good. And you might fall short of your purpose. So go and read Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 to 30. This is going to elaborate on that. I hope this can help some of you.